What's going on, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live coverage of the concerts that we get. If you're into pop punk, I did an album review of State Champs' new record, Living Proof. So check that out. I'll also be posting Era's live set today, so definitely check that out as well. And a ton of other things. I have that whole Dance Gavin Dance tour as well, so that will also be going out this week, and a ton more album reviews to be going out as well for this week, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Got some new stuff in the works. But tonight we're going to be talking about Level's new self-titled record. Shout outs to Dalton, their drummer of Levels. I had interviewed them, and I also did an album review of their previous work, Exist, I believe that was the name of it. I probably will correct if I'm wrong, but anyway, they are a band from Arkansas. They kind of have genty progressive influences, but also obviously very influenced by metalcore and bands of that nature. So they have lovely and graciously given me the record a little bit early to listen to, so I'm gonna go through each track, give you my thoughts and opinions on it, go through some pros and cons on the record, and then finish it out with an overall rating. They are signed to Famined Records. This record comes out Friday, so definitely check that out if you get the chance to. But we're gonna move into the first track, which is called Mayflower. This is the single that they released when they signed to Famined Records. I like the cool sort of ominous guitar intro. It has this interesting sort of eeriness to it, and also brings about some of the more darker undertones of this track, which is really nice. I think that whenever bands kind of add that sort of darker element to their music, I think it's always, works with that sort of style of heavier, sort of gentler stuff. I think it really kind of plays into that sort of favor. The cleans are really nice in this track. I also think that they could definitely be a little bit more, a little bit more punchy. I feel like they do have this sort of like cleanness to it, not in the sense of just the clean vocals. I just meant like clean production. It just feels very I can't think of the word, but it just feels very neutral, and there isn't too much of a, I guess, like a punch to it. The screams, on the other hand, feel very one-dimensional. There isn't too much going on in terms of the scream department, and I mean, in further tracks that you'll hear, and that I'll be going through, you'll understand why I feel they are a bit one-dimensional in this track, but I still think they fit very well into the song. It has a really cool groove to it, and I find myself digging the instrumentation over the vocals in this track. I feel like just the instrumentation of the song was really well put together, heavy. There are some cool melodic moments as well, but overall I think it's a pretty solid opener track. Really nothing to stand out at the moment, but I think it is a solid track nonetheless. So we're gonna move into track number 2, which is Bloodstream. This is the other single that they had released. They have released a couple actually, but this one, nothing too technical going on. I think it's even less technical than Mayflower. But I feel like in a track like this, it's just heavy. You just know what you're getting into as soon as the track starts. It's just down and dirty, and you can, I especially can imagine people pitting to this track for sure. The screams sound really good. I think it is definitely a step above what Mayflower was, and like I was exclaiming earlier about Mayflower, I think that they really kind of, brought me back in and were like, okay, the screams are really good. Maybe they just weren't as good on Mayflower, but I think that this one, again, nothing too special going on, but if you have those tracks that you just want to have that aggressive heaviness to, this one is definitely the go-to track off this record. So we're gonna move into track number 3, which is Disorder. Digging the riffs of this track. I think that the leads definitely take most of the spotlight in this track, which is really nice because I feel like they really make the song interesting, unique, and they bring a lot of just depth to the track that would have otherwise just been missing if if there weren't any sort of sick, sort of tappy, like ambient sort of leads. I think it really works well in this track. There's this awesome guitar riff at the 1 minute 11 second to around the 1 minute and 30 second, and comes on along a little bit later in the track as well. It has that sort of southern, sort of feel to it, very reminiscent of issues in the way that they kind of write guitar stylings. I think that it really balances heaviness and melodicness very well in this track, and just made it really unique and interesting. It's one of those tracks that when I was listening through this record a few times, I felt like, yeah, this is the one that is a go-to for me without a doubt. It's definitely one of my favorite tracks, and is probably one of the most unique tracks off the record, without a doubt. So we're gonna move into track number 4, which is Alive. This one is definitely a heavier one as well. Loving the riffs in this track too. I think they really, pair well with that sort of heavy and more aggression nature of this track. The contrast in the song really makes it interesting as well. Again, much like in Disorder, it has this really cool melodic feel to it, but also backed by that sort of heaviness, that just sort of chunks that you get, when you're listening to that sort of heavier metalcore style stuff. In some parts, it definitely has that sort of volumes vibes, especially the newer sort of volume stuff. I feel like it plays a lot into that sort of styling. So if you are a fan of that new volumes record, I feel like you'll definitely dig this track. So we're gonna move into track number 5, which is Cosmic Waves. The cleans in this track were really nice, and I think that a lot of these, only a few of these tracks have had clean so far, so it's cool that this one has a little bit more of that clean aspect to it. But I think overall with the track, it's just missing something. I like the instrumentation, but I feel like the screams really don't mesh well with the sort of softer, more melodic nature of the track. I think that if this was kind of a mostly clean track, I think it would have worked out much better. It just would have got my interest a little bit more, and I think that if they kind of took the more North Lane Mesmer route, where they had their clean vocalists do mostly cleans, and just kind of have that sort of heavy aspect to the track, I think it would have panned out a little bit better. But I'm maybe more of a sucker for that than I am just to have screams to have screams. I think that would have worked a little bit better in regards to this track. So we're going to move into track number 6, which is Mind, and this one features Mike Terry of Volumes. Like I had mentioned earlier, Volumes is probably a pretty big influence on this band, so I feel like it was only necessary for them to have Mike on a track, but I feel like the instrumentation of this track is really interesting as well. It has a nice groove, it has a nice balance to it, and the screaming is pretty diverse. I think it's probably the most diverse off the entire record. I think it really kind of works and pairs very well with this track. I also appreciate the cleans in the chorus. I think it is, again, great to add that in. It wasn't just forced. It felt like it was supposed to be there. It fit in that section. I also feel like Mike did a really great job on this track as well. He comes in at around the minute 30-second mark, and he goes to around the 2-minute mark, a little over the 2-minute mark. So I think that that's really good. He has a long feature. I think that the kind of harmonization in the screams midway through the song really work well together, and I felt like this one was a solid one. It wasn't one that I really kind of wasn't jocking on, but I felt like this one is definitely pretty close to my favorites. Maybe I have to give it a few more listens, but overall I really enjoyed this track as well. So we're gonna move into track number 7, which is Slip. This one's one of my favorites. It was actually from their previous EP, Exist, which is definitely cool. I like that they brought back a track. It's one of my favorites from that EP as well. If you haven't checked out that review, that was actually kind of pretty early on in my career, so I'm hopefully matured and gotten a little bit better at critiquing stuff, but loving the darker undertones of this track. It really brought back those, that whole EP and things of that nature. It has a great groove, it has a great bounce to it, and just everything about this song really screams levels, and I really appreciate that. It has some really cool syncopated riffs that were, again, really solid back then and still really great now. So go check out Slip. They have a music video for that. It's been about a year since they posted it, so definitely go give that one a listen. But we're gonna move it into track number 8, which is Doppelganger. This one feels like an interlude sort of track. I would have loved to hear some cleans on this one. I feel like there is a big missed opportunity in this one. They could have really made this into a solid track. It feels just more, it is pretty much an instrumental track, but even if they did it instrumentally, I feel like they could have really turned up the creativity a little bit. I feel like this one again was just a huge kind of missed opportunity. They could have done some cool like lead parts. If they didn't get the cool lead parts, they could have done some cool clean vocals. If they couldn't do either of them, they probably should have combined them. That would have been really cool. I just feel like there's just something that's lacking with this track that would have just made it flow. It made just kind of the record flow a little bit better, because I feel like this one, when you listen to it after you listen to Slip, it kind of comes to a screeching halt. So definitely, I wouldn't have chose this one, but if they kind of switched it up and did something interesting, I feel like this song would have been much better off. So we're gonna move into track number 9, which is Guilt, and this one features K Toomer. He happens to be a rapper from Arkansas, or the area. I'm not familiar with his work, but I think that after this song I should be familiar with his work, because his rap skills are on point. He basically starts the track off and ends it around the 50-second mark, and he just goes in. I think that this is probably one of my favorite kind of rap sort of metalcore crossover tracks. I think it really works well. He didn't feel like he was just in the track to be in the track. It just worked super well. It has that strong sort of new metal vibe to it in the beginning of the track, but then kind of morphs into this dark melodic sort of genty track, which really is sick. Definitely one of the heavier tracks off the record, up there with Bloodstream, and just the riffs on this track were absolutely killer. I love this track to death. It's definitely one of my favorites without a doubt. I think it just kind of balances that heaviness, but also has some cool melodic parts as well. And just the rap line, that whole beginning part really got me. I love the sort of chunky bass part with that drumming and the like really kind of distant, kind of distorted guitar. I think it works very well on this track, and definitely, if I haven't said it enough, it's one of my favorites. So we're gonna move into track number 10, which is Fall to Earth. This one definitely goes hard, much like a Bloodstream. I feel like this one has not too much going on, but again, I'm not thinking about technicality in this one. I'm thinking about straight heaviness, and I feel like this one gets an A+ in that regard. It's definitely one of those tracks that if you put it on, you're gonna want to start pitting without a doubt. I think it really works well in the grand scheme of this whole record, and we're gonna move it on to the last track number 11, Define. This one is the best structured track, whether it be in the vocal department or the instrumental department. I think everything worked very well and in tandem with each other, and it sounds different from most of the record without a doubt. It has elements of melodicness, it has elements of heaviness, but in a different way than what I was exclaiming in this review, and I really enjoyed the hell out of this track. I think that just a lot of the things that they couldn't really kind of work out in this record, they really worked out super well in this track. I would have loved if they carried on in this direction in the foreseeable future, because it really works with their sound, and much like Slip on their previous EP, I feel like this one is one of those, no pun intended, defining tracks off this record. It just really has this uniqueness, and if they follow down that path, I feel like they definitely have the potential to be big. I think it's a great closer track. It has the proper balance of melodicness and heaviness that really kind of play in tandem with each other, like I've been mentioning earlier. But I can't show enough love for this track. It's the best track off the record. So some pros and cons. I feel like there's some missteps off this record, more specifically Doppelganger, and some other tracks. It just felt like there was missing something. Cosmic Waves a little bit here and there. It's just, I feel like there was a lot of potential, but they just didn't kind of go with it. And again, I'm not in the studio with them. I'm just a critiquer. I can only, see externally what happens. But I think that if they really kind of honed in, they do tracks like Define, they do tracks like Guilt, they do tracks like even Mind and Disorder. I feel like they are definitely going in that sort of direction, and I love that a lot because I think that it's unique, and it wasn't gonna get me confused with any other sort of band that they are trying to, obviously have influences of and by, but I think that they could have expounded upon those sorts of songs, and just kind of taken the more like less basic approach. I'm not saying that you shouldn't include tracks like, Fall to Earth or Bloodstream, because there's always going to be those tracks that you want to kind of just throw down to, but for the most part, I'd love to hear some more experimentation, just some more thought going on with it. The cleans, I would have loved to hear some more cleans. I think that they were really solid. I would have loved to hear a little bit more just emotion to it, but I think overall, I think it was pretty good. The screams just generally was really good as well. There's some nice moments of lows and highs that you can get from any sort of screaming record, but I think that this one they do a pretty good job of including it, and maybe in some parts maybe excluding it, and just kind of having more cleans done. Obviously, it's kind of new. I would say it's kind of new for them. I don't know, but I think it really would be a nice setting tone for maybe the next record, EP, whatever. But overall, I thought it was really solid. There's some great groovy tracks. There's some great, really heavy tracks, and there's some really thoughtful tracks that work well with their sound, and I think that it is a solid record nonetheless. So my overall rating for Levels self-titled record, I'm going to be giving it a 9 out of 10. I think it's one that you should go give a listen to, especially if you're into Issues, North Lane, I would say a little bit of Veil of Maya here and there, and there's definitely another band, Honor Crest, an older sort of Rise band, and Volumes. I don't know how I forgot to mention Volumes, but those sorts of bands, if you're into that sort of stuff, you'll definitely dig this band for sure. All links are in the description where you can find out about the band. Go pick it up. It comes out Friday. It is their self-titled debut record on Famined Records, so go give them some love. And I don't know if they have any tour plans or things of that nature, but they'll be announcing it probably on their social media, so keep updated with that. And if you enjoyed this review, please subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and let me know in the comments what you think about the record. I'd love to know what your thoughts are about it. If you disagree, if you agree, I'd love to know, have a conversation about it. That's what I'm all about here at Audio Addiction, so go do that. And like I said, tons of cool stuff coming on your way, so definitely hit that bell so you get notified of when new things arrive to the channel. So my name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com, and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.